Hey out there, Jenna P. Corb with Bancroft Realty, and I wanted to do a video today because I'm sure that you've seen something to do with the NAR, which is the National Association of Realtors, and Realtor commissions. This is not going to be a video explaining everything that's coming down the pipeline with that because I have not read through it myself, and I haven't gone through some of the classes that I'm sure will be coming up over the next couple months. The actual ruling doesn't take effect until July. But mainly, the thing that's going to be changing is just that there's a listing agent that is listing a house is not allowed to advertise in MLS how much they're going to pay for the selling agent, which is also called, which people refer to as the buyer's agent. Um, but you can still negotiate and discuss commissions between the two of you and all of that. So there's not much, well, in that particular part of the ruling, there's not going to be that much that's going to change in a practical perspective for the clients. But I did want to do a video today about realtor commissions and why do you even need to hire a realtor? There's a lot of discussions lately because there's so many more options now for people to do when it comes to selling their house. Way more options than what we would have had in the 80s and 90s when we did not have the internet. Back then, there was books, literal books that came out every week that had all the listings in there. They went out to all the agents and you couldn't even, there was no lock boxes on the door. You had to go to the broker that had the listing and you had to physically get the key and you had to go let the client in to show the house. And the only way that you knew what was on the market was your realtor told you. And so there were all these options for selling online and for using brokerages like Zillow or like iBuyers like Zillow and all this stuff. There wasn't all those options. And in today's society, a lot of people probably are questioning, why would you even still need to use a realtor? And I think that these are great questions because it gives me an opportunity to tell you why you should use a realtor if you don't regularly sell and buy homes, which some people do, but also why you need to use a very specific realtor to the type of transaction that you are experiencing. So first and foremost, it's important to understand commissions have always been negotiable. Just like with any type of price point for any type of vendor or person that you're going to use to do a service, they're always going to be negotiable. Whether you hire a plumber or a electrician or a contractor, they'll give you a price for how much they charge for that particular job. And then you can either try negotiating with that person or you can shop around and see if there's another person that who can provide that same service at that same level of quality for a cheaper amount of money. That is your right as a consumer, and you should do that when it comes to realtors as well. Being a realtor though is especially tricky because a lot of times we use the people that we know and they might not always be the best fit for what we're actually doing. And realtors, we provide a commission based on what we believe we're worth. And it's hard whenever you're going to a friend to say, you know what, I think I want to try to get something, could you do it, but do it for less? And realtors to this point, to be fair, haven't had to do a whole lot of selling themselves on why they deserve to get the commission to sell your house or to help you buy a house. It's just kind of the given that that's just what happens. And I think that's what this law is trying to address. And so that's one thing to take away from this video is that commissions are always negotiable. Now, that doesn't mean that an agent is going to say, sure, I'll go ahead and just pay whatever you want. They're going to charge what they believe that they're worth. And if y'all can't come to an agreement about what that amount is, then you have the right to go find another agent. And that is their right as a person providing a service that they're allowed to say, I charge more, and that's okay. And if their value is there, then that's why there are electricians that charge more and plumbers that charge more, and people that work in advertising or people that do social media, networking and stuff like that. If you do better and you are good at what you do, then you can charge more. And it's the same way with realtors. I think that one of the things that is going to come from this is that realtors are going to have to get a lot more specific about the type of real estate that they do. There's all kinds of different types of real estate. There are people that are very good at helping first-time home buyers buy a home. There are people that are very, very good at helping people go from one house to another. So they're very good at selling and buying, and that process between the two is sometimes very tricky and it's complicated, and there are agents that are really, really good at that. There are agents that help people buy high-end homes. There is a high-end home market. When you're selling a home that is $300,000 versus one that is $3 million, totally different buying group, totally different way that you advertise, totally different marketing technique. It costs a lot of money to be an agent at that level because you have to do a lot of things that people at the $300,000 amount just don't have to do. It takes a lot longer to close a property because there's more money being moved around. And so there's just different expectations. And then for someone like me, I help people that are downsizing that are in the senior market because there's other types of challenges that come from that. You sometimes, if you're selling a home that's where someone has passed away, you have probate, you have wills, you have trusts, you have deeds that might have not have been signed off properly. And it's important as this person in the senior niche to have a network of people like lawyers, attorneys, title companies that understand how to navigate that type of transaction. And then for someone like me, I can also offer an estate sale with someone that is actually selling their home or downsizing their home. I'm also emotionally prepared to be able to have those conversations with family members at that particular age group and with those particular type of siblings and issues that come along with that. So I think that realtors are going to have to get very, very good at a specific niche where they become very highly skilled at a particular type of real estate transaction. And that is something that you as a consumer can ask. What are the different types of transactions that you've done in the past year, 2 years, 4 years? Because if someone is saying, I deserve this percentage in order to sell your home or to help you purchase your home, you want to know that that realtor is going to be worth that amount of money. And for someone like me that's going to sell your home, what you want to know is how much money are you going to net me if I pay you to sell it? So that's my next point is don't look at commissions as a cost of selling the house. Look at it like, if I use this agent, how much more will I net? So you have a home price and an offer. So let's say that you go to sell your house, you want to sell it for $300,000. You owe $100,000 in the remaining mortgage that you still have. And then after you pay that off, and then also after any repairs that come along and any other costs that you and the buyer have negotiated that you'll pay for, how much money will you net? Meaning, how much are you going to walk away from that transaction with? And as the listing agent, my job is to make sure that you walk away with a net amount that you feel good about, that made you feel like you got all the equity out of the house that you put into it over the years that you've had that equity. Real estate is the top investment for a reason. It's because it appreciates in value, and I want to make sure that when you walk away from that transaction, you net the highest amount that you can, because the highest net, it means the highest equity. That's what equity is. It's how much money you have gained from the value of your home when you go to sell it. And so um, my favorite story about this is a lot of people, if you look at those realtor commissions as a cost as opposed to what you're paying for to make more money, um, where I see this the most is when people decide they just want to sell to an investor because their home needs too much work and a realtor is going to cost too much money and yada, yada, yada. And the investor comes along, and I keep hitting my microphone and I'm sorry. The investor comes along and says, oh, we're not going to charge you any realtor commissions. We're not going to charge you for all these, we're just going to give you cash, and this is how much we're going to give you. And the person that's lived in that house for, 50 years says, wow, that's like 100 times what I paid for it, even though it's still not what they could make on an open market. So they end up thinking that they're walking away with a good amount of money and that they saved a lot of money. But in reality, when you look at the two transactions side by side, it does not work out that way. And one of the stories I tell more than any other story is I had a family that wanted to sell their mom's house, and their mom's house had issues. It had foundation issues. It had um, they were convinced that this house was not worth that much money. She'd had it for decades and decades. It didn't even have central heat and air. She had added on a back addition to the house that was basically not put on well. And, there's all these problems with it, right? So they had an investor that came along and said they were going to give them $103,000. It was going to be divided between the four of them. And the mom, when she had bought the house, it was like $8,000 or something silly. I mean, it was going to be a tremendous amount of appreciation. But one of the kids I had worked with in numerous transactions in the past came to me and said, Jenna, can you please tell me what you would be able to make us if you were to sell this house? So I looked, and what I did was I put together a net proceeds sheet, which I give to every single person and every single offer, that if you list a house with me, every offer you get will come with a net proceeds sheet, because I want you to know how much you're going to walk away from that transaction if you were to agree to that contract, and that's how much you ended up selling it for, and everything worked to the end. This is how much money you'd make. I put together a net proceeds sheet for them, and I said, okay, this is how much we charge at our brokerage for this commission. And if you were to sell it right now, then your house would right now get $135,000 for it. And that is at the minimum. And I said, I believe that you will not only get that, but you'll get more. And they said, there's no way that's true. And I said, I promise you that's what's going to happen. So they were either going to get a $100,000 offer where the investor said they'd pay for everything and they were just going to walk away with a check. And, they were just, after all was said and done, they were going to make, I think, net like 91,000 or 93,000, something like that. I showed them if we were to sell for $135,000 and you were to pay the full amount of the 6% that we were going to charge. And I said, if I ended up getting the buyer too, I would negotiate my rate at that point. That we, after all was said and done, they would walk away with about $20,000 more. And they said, we don't believe you. And I said, I promise you. We ended up getting we got 42 offers, I think, in like a 36-hour period of time. Two of them were $175,000, and they ended up walking away with closer to $175,000. And they net almost, I think it was like $60,000 more than what they would have done if they'd have just sold it to the investor. And the reason is because they had an agent that had access to MLS. And what MLS does is it is the open market. So as much as we might hate MLS, MLS is what tells us how much houses are. You have to have something. It's like if you were to decide how much do I want to sell this lamp for, you would have to go somewhere like an Etsy or an Amazon, not an Amazon. You could sell it on Etsy, or you could sell it on eBay, or you could sell it on Facebook Marketplace, and you would say, okay, well, it looks like everybody is this particular lamp right now is only going for $10, so I could probably only get about $10 for it. Or maybe that lamp is more popular right now because it was on some show and they featured this lamp that you just happen to have in your living room, and you go to eBay and now all of a sudden this lamp is worth $50 and people are willing to pay $50 for it because now it's a collector's item. The only way that you know that is if you go to a place and it tells you how much this particular thing is worth. That is what MLS is. And that is one of the biggest benefits of hiring a realtor, because realtors have access to MLS. Now, people have access to MLS, third-party access, if they were to go to Zillow, because Zillow, Realtor.com, all those places pull from MLS. The thing that you can't do within Zillow and Realtor.com and those third-party places that a realtor can do is they can't interact with that data, not in the way that you can interact with it on MLS. So there's things that we can do to pull to decide, okay, if we're going to sell this particular house that was built in this particular time period, that's this particularly big and has this much rooms and all this other stuff, what are all the different ways that we can figure out to advertise this house so that this seller gets the most money for that house? That is one of the biggest reasons to hire a realtor, because that is what their commission pays for, is access to that MLS. And that is why it's really important to use a realtor, not just a real estate agent. The difference between a realtor and a real estate agent is that an agent can have their salesperson's license in a state, but a realtor pays dues to the National Association of Realtors and to their local association, which gives them access to MLS. So, coming to the third point, you can do it yourself, but the question is, do you want to? I do a lot of do-it-yourself projects around my house. Part of the reason I do that is because my house, the areas in my house are so small that there's contractors now that would not even want to come in and do it because it's not worth their time or energy. And it's because the project itself would not make them any money, and it wouldn't be worth the time that it would even take to get over here to do some of these things. So I've kind of had to learn to do some of these things myself. But I want to do a kitchen remodel, and that is way bigger of a project than I can do, and I cannot learn how to do that on YouTube. So there's certain things I can learn how to do, and then there's certain things that I just don't want to learn how to do. I just want to be able to pay a professional to do it. Well, that's kind of like being a realtor. So um, realtors also understand what is going on with the market. Okay, so I'll use this analogy. So let's say that you're going to be using a contractor, and it's going to be a lot cheaper for them to do a job than it's going to be for you to do the job sometimes in the end, because they already have all the materials that they need to do that job. So when I go to retile my shower, I have to buy a tiling knife and a drill that can be able to stir mortar, and I have to buy putty knives, and I have to buy things to pick up concrete backer, and like all these different things that cost me money. So it's not just tiling a shower. Whereas someone like a contractor that already has all this, and they have the men that have done it multiple times, they can get that thing done just like that because they know what they're doing. They probably just retiled the shower yesterday, and they did one the day before, and it just comes naturally. And so they're able to do that a lot faster. It's the same thing with realtors. So the more transactions that you do as an agent, and the more recently you do them, you understand what the market is doing at that moment in time. I'll give you an example. So I got my license in 2014. And when I came into the real estate scene, the market was pretty even. So it wasn't really a buyer's market, it wasn't really a seller's market, but there were certain trends that we were seeing with offers. So one of the trends that we started seeing was that usually whenever you put an offer down with a buyer, you can ask for the seller to give you a home warranty. And a home warranty might have cost $500, and they pay for it for the first year of the time that you had the home. So that was in a lot of the transactions. And then suddenly in 2020, it became less popular for people to ask for a home warranty. Number one, because they didn't always know that the home warranty was actually worth the money that they spent on it. Is it worth it to have a home warranty, or do you just want to go ahead and have a good network of like people that can come and take care of problems for you, and it's faster and all those things? So they started dwindling in popularity, but it also became more of a seller's market. So people that were asking for little piddly stuff like $500 for a home warranty, the sellers were saying, no, I don't have to pay for that because now I have 10 other people that are not asking me to pay for that. So you, as the buyer's agent, if you hadn't been doing real estate for the past few couple of years, then you would not know that. So the offer that you're going to put together as a buyer's agent is going to be less attractive and less competitive because you're not familiar with all the different trends that are going on in the market. And so that is why it's like you can do it yourself. But let's say that you sold a house you're on your own 10 years ago, and it went so great and everything was perfect. Well, the market has changed since then. So you might have been able to do it then, but now the market has shifted to where you couldn't do the exact same transaction again, and you haven't gained any new expertise in that previous 10 years. So you might think to yourself, I'm just going to save the money and just go ahead and list it myself. Well, you might be able to do that, And if you're an investor or someone that is constantly in the real estate market yourself, but you're not an agent, like you're a flipper or you buy and sell houses all the time, then you could probably do that. Um, but for most people, buying and selling a house is going to be something they do very few times in their life, maybe twice, three times, maybe. And it is just not something that they want to be able to do on their own, nor do they have the ability to protect themselves. They don't understand how to navigate the contracts. They want to make sure that they're taking care. That is why you pay for a realtor. Not only is a realtor going to give you access to something that you can't have all the way, like MLS, they're also going to be able to net you more money, and they're also going to be able to protect your fiscal best interest and make sure that you are protected in that contract, and that you understand what the contract actually says, and that if you don't understand it, that they can lead you to someone who can, like an attorney, working with a title company or whatever, that they have a resource network to be able to help and guide you through the process, as opposed to you just doing it on your own and trying to go to Google and figuring all that out, which sure you can. I'm the queen of YouTube videos. I can learn how to do almost anything from a YouTube video, but it's very difficult and you're dealing with a lot more money. That's why I don't do electricity. Anything having to do with electricity, that is not my area of expertise, and I will not do it because I do not want my house to burn down. So so I hope that this video, this much longer video than what I was expecting, I hope that it helps you understand why a realtor is valuable and why it's necessary, and why maybe some questions that you can ask if you're in the market to maybe sell your house or buy a house. Like, what are some things that you can ask? Um, I learned, when it comes to like the niche stuff, I learned that I'm a much better listing agent with when it comes to aging people and adult children of aging parents than I am as a representative for a first time home buyer. Can I represent a first time home buyer in a transaction? Yes, and I used to do it all the time. But there are some agents that just click so well with that particular type of customer and that particular type of client. So those are great people to work with, because if you find those realtors that really understand their particular area of expertise, real estate becomes a very, very smooth, less stressful type of transaction than if you're using a realtor that just does not know what they're doing. And and realtors have a tendency to say, I can do anything, and then and most of them you can. But there's certain ones that are going to be much better, and I feel like I think this is where the real estate market is going to start to really, you're going to start to see. And there's already a rule that realtors can't practice real estate in areas that they're not um, what they would consider experts in. So, like, I am not an expert in rural land in West Texas. Like, never done that. I have no idea about land leases when it comes to oil. I don't know about selling large acreages. I've never sold a house with a huge, that's on a creek bed at the base of a mountain. Like, that's just not something I understand, and I don't do that. So I'm not going to go out there and try to market myself to people in, Abilene, because I don't know anything about the outside areas of Abilene or Sweetwater or something like that. And same thing with, like, my, like, a friend of mine is an agent down in Rockport, so on the coast. Totally different type of real estate market down there. You have to have wind insurance and like all these things that you don't have to have in North Texas. So what Texas said was, you can only practice real estate in the area that you understand, and that you can be an expert in. And I feel like it's even going to get more niche filled, which is going to be better for the consumer, honestly, because then you know what kind of agent that you're really looking for and what your goal is. And that's going to make it, I just think it's going to make the real estate market stronger, and it's going to make consumers and make it a lot more obvious and clear what kind of agent you need for your particular type of transaction. So if I can be of help, comment in the comment on the video below, like and subscribe to my channel. I wish Avery was here, my daughter. She could tell you to like and subscribe. Smash that like button. But I try to give practical knowledge of real estate and just ways to think about things differently, and just help everybody navigate all the different changing landscapes of real estate, which is always going to be changing and always has been and always will continue to be. So if I can be of any use to you, if you are in North Texas and you are looking to downsize your house, or you have a house that needs to be sold because mom or dad has recently passed away, I would love to be able to help you. My cell phone is 214 558 4410. Have a great day. Bye.